Hey everybody, this is Rev J with Rev J Rides. I'm dressed and ready to go do a different ministry that I normally don't even talk about on here. A ministry with some children that we do. Our church does this ministry with children every Monday. But anyways, that's why I'm dressed like this. But I was thinking back about my ride that I went on this past Saturday. Our Easter ride, Easter weekend ride, last Saturday ride that we did. And I was thinking about some things that my mind was on. And you're going to know why my mind was on this, okay? We actually had a tragedy here not in our church, but in one of our facilities here at the church. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. I want to talk about a tragedy and just really my feelings, my thoughts on this tragedy. We all go through hard times. Now, this is not to bring anybody down. I hope and pray that what I have to say gives people some peace and assurance. That's my goal. But good to see you. Let's talk. I will go ahead and show some of the ride. This building is what we call our Family Life Center. It's part of the facilities we have here at our church. We actually left on our ride from that Family Life Center parking lot. You probably saw that in the previous video or several others. There's probably been several videos that I've shot where we're leaving from there. But that Family Life Center was the place where a tragedy took place Friday evening. I got a phone call saying that this had already taken place. And as the pastor of the church, I believed I needed to get there as quickly as possible to try to help if I could. So I jumped in my vehicle and I came up to the Family Life Center where I found my friend. His name is Jim. And Jim began to tell me about the events that took place there. What had happened is a high school basketball team. I'm not going to name the high school. I just would like to keep names and stuff out of this right now, but they're dealing with that, and I'm praying for them, and I'm hoping that, if there's anything I can do, they'll let me help them in any way, shape, or form. But as I arrived, and Brother Jim told me about what happened, this basketball team, which had just finished the state tournament not long ago, I don't know, a week earlier or something, and since it hadn't been all that long, they still wanted to get together and play basketball, but they couldn't use their school gym because it's their off season. The head coach couldn't be there. It's all part of a dead period that the school system makes sure that people are not together playing basketball all year round, giving them some sort of unfair advantage over other groups, or maybe some might think disadvantage. Maybe they need some time off, but they still wanted to play. So they called around and found our gym in our Family Life Center. We have a wonderful basketball court there, and they came and took a look at that and played there. But one of their players actually collapsed and his heart stopped beating. He was 17 years old. He was a senior in high school, but he's no longer with us. Can you imagine being one of his teammates? Can you imagine being one of the coaches? Maybe it wasn't the head coach that was here, but there was another person or two here. And then can you imagine Brother Jim opening the door for them so they could come play? Worse than that, though, can you imagine being a parent or a grandparent? My heart really goes out to them. And I thought about these things on this ride. I thought about how we can gain peace and comfort through Jesus Christ. He promises that he goes before us to prepare a place for us in heaven, that if we would believe in him, we will see the resurrection. We will live. We will not die. He has said that. And one of the great things that I know that our church tries to do is we try to make sure that when people use that gym, they hear the gospel, they hear the good news of Jesus Christ, how he came to die and pay the penalty for our sin, and that how if we would trust him with our lives, if we by faith would trust him, then we can be saved. Well, this young man, this 17-year-old man had played in our gym before and heard the gospel many times. I can't tell you for sure that he received Christ. Jim hasn't told me that. Nobody's told me that. I don't know that. I do know all of the boys that knew him, all of the people that knew him told me he was such an honorable young man, very just filled with respect for people and such a good guy that they believed that he was saved. Now, being a good guy does not save us, but being a good guy might have been a result of knowing Jesus. And so that's where our hope is. If we know Jesus, we can be in heaven. And if that was the case, this young man is in heaven today. He's not experiencing trouble. We are, those of us left behind, we're sad. But he's not sad. If he knew Jesus, he is truly in a better place. So the people that love this young man are having a really hard time with his passing, and I totally understand that. I would have a hard time too, and all of us would. But there is a story that kind of brings me a little bit of peace. Let me see if I can remember the story. It's a story of an old Indian weaver who had a shop in the Sedona, Arizona area. He would weave rugs and pictures and things that you would hang on a wall, but he was really good at it and had a great reputation, had this shop there. People would come by and buy his rugs for well over $1,000. I don't know how much, but he was well known and people paid good money for his work. A couple went into that shop and saw his work and were just blown away by his work. Look at these. It's the picture itself on this rug is so clear, so vivid. The colors are just striking, just beautiful. And so as they looked at these rugs and pictures and things, they decided to go ahead and contract him, the same Indian weaver, to do their own rug. And they gave him a picture of I think it was a sunset in the desert in the mountains there in Arizona. And so they gave it to him and said, "Can you do this?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I can do this." And he told him it would take him about a week or so. Might have been a month, but let's just say week for the sake of argument here, for the sake of the story. But they were gone for a week and came back. And the lady stayed in the car while the man went in to pay for it and try to pick it up. But as he went in, it turned out that the Indian weaver wasn't there. And the lady that was at the counter said, "Sir, I'm sorry, he just went to lunch. He'll be back pretty soon. But you can go on back and take a look at his work. He's finished, I think, with your project there." And so he went back into the back room, and what he saw did not make him happy at all. What he saw discouraged him, made him upset. He looked at it, and everything was kind of fuzzy and out of place and just kind of weird looking. And I mean, the colors were okay, but not as striking as the ones out in the front. Not as vivid. The pictures were not as clear. And so he began to get a little upset and thought that maybe he got cheated or something, when just about that time the Indian weaver walked in and said, "Oh, so what do you think?" And he said, "Sir, I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed." "Oh, look, well, hold on a minute. You haven't looked at it from the right side, the correct side." And he went over to the easel, the stand, and he picked up the big rug and he turned it around. And for the first time, the man saw it. And it was beautiful. You see, I think it's that way with God. God is tapping the threads of our lives into place on this side of eternity, but we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side of eternity. It doesn't make sense to us on this side. It's fuzzy. It's not clear. The colors are not as beautiful as they could be. But when we get to the other side, it all makes sense. And I know these family members are upset. I'm not happy that the young man passed away. Not at all. I'm sad too. But when we get to the other side, we can know why this all took place. We won't know why it took place on this side of eternity, but it'll all make sense. It'll all be clear. It'll be a beautiful picture that we can all see together and say, you know what? God did a masterpiece here. Hey, if you don't mind, please like, share, and subscribe.